What's up everyone, welcome back to another video. In today's video we're going to be talking about the upcoming GM, which is Corrupted Nightfall. If you haven't done Corrupted Nightfall, I will also be doing helps on Twitch, but these are the recommended builds I would highly use for this GM. So we're on Warlock, so Warlock for the first class is going to be the Dawn Chorus build. Personally, if you're going to use Dawn Chorus, I would pair this with another Phoenix or a Well user, mainly just because you want to use this build for ad clear and damage setup, not for well planting. Going into the build itself, I use double harmonic siphon, so I pair this with Sunshot normally as my weapon, heavy ammo finder, firepower, grenade kickstart, all three resist, solar void and arc. Recommend having all of it. Just if you are getting hit by one primarily more, put on that instead. I use harmonic siphon or scavenger, harmonic scavenger with recuperation and stack on stacks. So when I get stack on stacks, it just means every time I pick up an orb, I will get pretty much a chunk more energy for this grenade kickstart. Instead of one orb, I get 2 armor charges for 1 orb instead of 1 for 1. Double bomber and powerful attraction. Personally speaking, this is going to be one of those mid builds, only if you are pairing it with the right people. It's not going to work by yourself. That's just me personally. Going into it, I'm using Icarus Dash and Touch of Flame as my aspects. You can choose whatever aspects you want. Ember of Solace, Ember of Singeing, Ember of Imperium, and Ember of Ashes. You don't need Ember of Solace, that was for something else. Rephrase that one to Ember of Resolve. Ember of Ashes to cause more Scorch. Pairing that with Dawn Chorus, you're going to make a shit ton of ignitions, so easy ignitions going off. Incinerator Snap, Fusion Grenade, Burst Glide, Healing Rift, and Dawnblade, or Daybreak, whatever you want to call it. Personally, this is a mid build in my opinion. You could probably rework it if you want. The main build I'll probably use myself is going to be a Phoenix Protocol design. The way I'm going to pair this is with Heavy Ammo Finder, Kinetic Siphon, and Wish and Ashes assets. You can swap between a Kinetic Siphon and a Harmonic Siphon, varying on what weapons you're using. Grenade Kickstart and Firepower, Arc Resist, Void Resist, and a Scavenger mod for reserves. Invaration, Stack on Stacks, and Recuperation, Powerful Attraction, and Double Bomber. So for this build itself, I'm using Icarus Dash again, Touch of Flame, Ember of Wonder, Ember of Char, Ember of Resolve, Ember of Benevolence, pairing that with Healing Rift, Burst Glide, Incinerator Snap, and Fusion Grenade. Obviously using Well of Radiance, because why the heck not? Well of Radiance is one of the most overpowered things in the game. The third and final build I'm going to recommend for Warlock is a bit of a change, Optiomancy. So for this GM, you can heavily use Optiomancy in the sense where there's a lot of targets to freeze, and there's a lot of space to throw out those grenades. They are both effective in the long and short-term duration of the GM. Getting to the final boss room, you can kind of lock that area down quite nicely, both in the Taken realm or the Ascendant plane, and just the normal realm that you have to fight her at the start. Do want to quickly mention, you cannot cheese. When I say cheese, you can't nuke the boss one floor anymore, one damage phase that got patched, so we are going back into the realm and having a fight her. I use pretty much double harmonic siphon. Personally speaking, I'm not going to be using a stasis weapon, so I would change harmonic siphons to something like a kinetic siphon over anything else. More or less kinetic siphon, heavy ammo finder, and heavy ammo scout. Pairing that with bolstering detonation, fastball, and grenade kickstart. Triple resist mod again, stack on stacks, invaration, and recuperation. Double bomber, one bomber. I haven't really checked out this build too much. Powerful attraction and a Reaper mod. You can change that Reaper for another bomber, that's what I would personally do. On my Shade Binder or the subclass, you'll be using Bleak Watcher and Ice Flare bolts with Cold Snap. So when I use Optiomancy can pretty much consume a grenade and throw it, but when you pair it with Cold Snap grenades, it allows you to have 2 instead of 1. Any other grenade you use, you will only have 1. Penumbral Blast, Burst Glide, Healing Rift, Winter's Wrath, and we're going with Whisper of Torment, Whisper of Conduction, Whisper of Refractions, and Whisper of Shards. Personally speaking, this is going to be one of the more Meta builds, I would say it's still not a bad build to try out, but I would highly recommend using Solar for the entire run. Alright, we'll move on to Hunters next, and we'll do Titans last. Otherwise, till then, just give me a moment and we'll go. Alrighty, so we're on Hunters. For Hunters, I would highly recommend these 3 builds overall. Hunters are probably the easiest class to use at best. For this GM, you have a lot of like easy cringe ways to get the kills and pop off supers. But primarily this would be the best one overall. I'll show the second best and then go into like the third I would recommend. But I would highly recommend, if you are not going for a full nuke strategy, going with Graviton Forfeit. I pair this with Kinetic Siphon, Heavy Ammo Scout, Heavy Ammo Finder. Again, I would probably pair this because this week Malfeasance will be disgusting for Corrupted, so I'd pair this with Malfeasance preferably. Grenade Kickstart, Firepower, double arc resist and a solar resist. You can change that again. You can have whatever resistance you want, but as long as they match with the elements and what you're getting hit by the most. Invigoration, stack on stacks, and invigoration. You don't need invigoration. You can use that if you like. You can change that to something like, I don't know, recuperation. Reaper, powerful proximity ward, and powerful attraction. So those are the 3 you want to be using down below. When you dodge, if you need to get that quick kill off, bang, you get a free orb. Power proximity ward, when you do a finisher, you get an overshield. And trust me, the way this build works, it is disgusting with the overshields. I pair this with Firepower and Grenade Kickstart. For people who don't know, I use a lot more grenade throwing than what I do with invisibility for most of my builds. Trapper's Ambush, Vanishing Step, pairing that with Echo of Persistence, Echo of Dilation, Echo of Starvation, and Echo of Obscurity. Gambler's Dodge to get my dodge back or my smoke bomb back. Triple Jump, Snare Bomb, and Vortex Grenade. This you can change between. I would highly recommend using Deadfall this entire week. With Deadfall, you're more likely to get like a ton of ads and just kill them and also last longer. So it would be more effective if you're pairing that with well users. The third build, or the second build, to use is this build here with Lucky Pants. So build design is pretty much just going with Harmonic Siphon, Kinetic Siphon. You want to be using your heavy weapon, and you're going to probably use Malfeasance the most of this build, because why not? Malfeasance, Lucky Pants, greatest combination. Heavy Ammo Finder, Firepower, and Melee Kickstart. Pair that with Harmonic Resistance, Arc, and Solar Resist. Kinetic Surge, so you do more damage with your Kinetic. Harmonic Scavenger, so you have a Void Heavy. Pair that with whatever class you're using. We're using Void. Harmonic Recuperation. We're not going to be really spamming much, to be honest, besides from Malfeasance shots and Machine Gun. Powerful Attraction, Outreach, and Reaper. You can change Outreach if you want to something like Powerful Attractions, but that's your call. Otherwise, yeah. Not Powerful Attraction, sorry, Proximity Ward, that's what I was meaning. Trapper's Ambush and Vanishing Step. Pair that with Echo of Dilation, Echo of Persistence, Echo of Starvation, and Echo of Obscurity. Gambler's Dodge, Triple Jump, Snare Bomb, and a Vortex Grenade again. And varying, I would highly again just say use Deadfall. If you're not going to use Deadfall, Mobibius would be the next bet. The third build and the final build for Hunters I'm going to recommend would be Celestial Nighthawk Golden Gun. If you're using Golden Gun this season, Celestial is the way to go, especially in this GM. Between the double ogre bosses that you have to fight, the final boss, Celestial will tear those things to shreds when it comes to damage. Personally, you do still want to have someone who can use like an Invis Hunter, because that will be a safer bet for you throughout the whole run. But best bet for this build, Heavy Ammo Scout, Solar Siphon. Pair this with something like, I don't know, Sunshot. Again, Heavy Ammo Heavy Handed, Grenade Kickstart, Arc Resist and Void. Obviously, just whatever resist you want. Recuperation, Harmonic Scavenger, and Stack on Stacks. If you're going to use this build, the only thing I'm going to say to it is probably pair this with Dragon's Breath or a Linear Rifle. Machine Gun for this GM is meh at best. Going forward, Double Bomber and Powerful Attraction. Obviously, my aspects I'm using On Your Mark, Knock 'em Down. I use Ember of Soul, Ember of Wonder, Ember of Searing, Ember of Imperium, Ember of Benevolence, and Ember of Char. Gambler's Dodge, Triple Jump, Knife Trick, and Healing Nade. You can change Gambler's Dodge to Maskman or Acrobats, whatever you want, and making sure you pair this with Maskman, Golden Gun Maskman. If you're not using Golden Gun Maskman, then you're not using it correctly. Otherwise, that's all I recommend for Hunters. We'll move on to Titans now. Okay, now we're on Titan, and lucky last Titan. So for Titan, I have 4 builds to say the least, because I still want to add this extra one in for people who need to rely on a woven mail sort of system. So you understand that will be Strand. For Titan, you want to be kind of either using 2 tactics. Varying on what the burn is. If the burn is Arc Burn, I would highly recommend using this build right here, Curious of the Falling Star Nuke build. The design of this build is pretty much going into the boss and just going boom, Thunder Crash, and Grenade Spam. Obviously, you can see where my stats lie, but the aspect of the build and what you want to be using is Ashes to Assets, not Special Ammo, Heavy Ammo Finder. I've got the wrong mod on, but yes, Heavy Ammo Finder, Kinetic Siphon, because you're going to be pairing this with probably more or less a kinetic weapon. You're not going to really use an arc weapon in your secondary. A few weapons to use if you want Overload without La Monarch or Divinity. Centrifuge would be good for an exotic if you want. That's an arc weapon, so you can put on like an arc surge there or a harmonic siphon. Firepower, grenade kickstart, triple resist mods here. Don't worry about the reserves, that was something else. Inversion, stack on stacks, and recuperation. Pairing that with double bomber and powerful attraction again. On your build itself, you want to be pairing this with Touch of Thunder and Knockout. I was going to say knock them down. Otherwise, for my fragments, I use Spark of Ions, Spark of Resistance, Spark of Shock, and Spark of Magnitude. Pairing that with Pulse Grenade. Going back to the aspects, reasoning being, if you read down on the 3rd Pulse Grenade, create Ionic Traces, periodically damage targets and increase damage over time. Ionic Traces are pure of arc energy that stick towards you when picked up. Grants ability energy. Also, this build will jolt with the fragments, so make sure you use these fragments to jolt your targets. Obviously, we're using Seismic Strike. So people are aware, Seismic Strike does not mean anything in this build. The reason we use this is a movement tactic, so you can just go further ahead, and if you need to get out of something, you can use that as a movement getaway technique. High Lift, Thruster, you don't want to use Barricade on this build, you want to spam as much ability as possible. So Thruster is more effective. If you want to use Barricade, Towering Barricade is the way to go for this Nightfall. Thunder Crash for your ability, obviously. I'm just going to say it. If you're using Fist of Havoc in any GM this season, go see a doctor. That's all I can say. Otherwise, going to the next build, what you want to be using for this one is Lorelei. This build is heavily reluctant or reliable on your own surviving. It's not really a team play build, to say the least. Otherwise, the aspects to this is double harmonic siphon and heavy ammo finder. You'd pair this with something like a sunshot again. If you want it to be tricky, you could pair it with hierarchy or a bow that's solar. That's just preference, but I would say using sunshot would be the best gun for this GM. Heavy ammo, heavy-handed, fastball, and harmonic dexterity. Trust me, you'd probably be using a solar heavy weapon or a linear rifle or something along those lines. I feel triple resist mods, harmonic scavenger recuperation, and a surge mod, solar surge, double bomber, and powerful attraction. This build is more obviously set there to damage more than anything, but we'll be comparing this, or we're pairing this with Solar Invictus Consecration. So this is the funny thing about this build. This is kind of like a Pyrogal or a mini Pyro build. So the reason we're using Consecration is because you're just going to do the slam uppercut and you just got to scorch everything. Aspects you want to be using: Ember of Char, Ember of Ashes, Ember of Imperium, and Ember of Solace. Healing Nade, Hammer Strike, Catapult Lift, Rally Barricade, Not Towering Barricade, and Hammer of Soul. You don't use Burning Wall for this build. You actually want to be pairing this with hammers. With hammers, this build will do much more damage. The next build you do want to be pairing with Burning Maulbutt, which is the Pyrogal version of this. So with the Pyrogal version of this build, it's practically similar to the same, Harmonic or kinetic siphons, whatever you want to use, I would say just varies on your weapon. Personally, me, I'm probably just going to pair this with a Sunshot. Heavy ammo finder, heavy-handed again, and grenade kickstart. Trust me, these double heavy-handers will be useful. Triple resist mods, I would say whatever the burn is, obviously. Harmonic scavenger, recuperation, and stack on stacks. If you're not using harmonic scavenger, you can change that to invigoration or invigoration. So either get your grenade or your melee back. Double bomber and time dilation, which is a mistake. That's meant to be powerful attraction. I didn't swap over a mod. Just clarifying. Obviously, I'm going to be using Sol Invictus and Consecration again. Pairing this with Ember of Char, Ember of Ashes, Ember of Imperium, and Ember of Searing. So the design with Searing is the Scorch targets grant melee energy and create a fire sprite. Scorch Ashes implies more Scorch. The Slam Uppercut tactic does imply a shit ton of Scorch. Healing Nades, Hammer Strike, High Lift, Towering Barricade, and Burning Maul. You want to use Burning Maul with this build due to the fact that Paragal becomes one hit. So you just pop it, slam it down at your targets, hits them, boom. You get the tornadoes, you get all that little bonuses. Pairing that again, you're already using Paragal, so your little slide uppercut will be creating those tornadoes as well. The last build is going to be just a base suspension build. You pair this with pretty much double siphon mods. I'm going to tell you now, I recommend using Malfeasance with this build. Double kinetic siphon, heavy ammo binder, grenade kickstart, 2 of them, fastball. You are going to be creating a lot of orbs with this build. Triple resist mods, invigoration, recuperation, stack on stacks, powerful attraction, proximity ward, empowered finish. You just pair this with pretty much Banner of War and Denger's Lash. Thread of Transmutation, Thread of Mind, Thread of Continuity, Thread of Generation, Rally Barricade, Catapult Lift, Frenzy Blade, and Shackle Nades with Blade Fury. Anytime you are using a Buoyant Leap as your exotic, I highly recommend for the safety of your team, Rally Barricade, not Towering. That's all for this week. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Like and subscribe for more content like this. I'll be